You're listening to School Counseling Simplified, a podcast with easy-to-implement strategies for busy school counselors. Here's your host, Rachel Davis from Bright Futures Counseling.
Do you ever have a kiddo pop into your office last minute and you need an activity to do quickly? Or do you ever wish you had access to hundreds of school counseling resources at your fingertips? Well, my Impact School Counselor membership is for you. Inside Impact, you get access to hundreds of resources sorted by topic, tier, season, or monthly lesson plans. Simply log on, find what you need, download it, and use it with your students right away. You also get access to our community where you can meet like-minded school counselors to troubleshoot tough cases, get inspired, and collaborate with your colleagues. Not only that, we also know how important it is to stay on top of your professional development. That's why we offer live quarterly trainings on hot topics that you need most. Impact is designed to make your counseling life easier. I know you're super busy. That's why I've made it super simple to access everything you need in one place. This way you can spend your time and energy doing what you love the most, helping kiddos. If you're looking for a one-stop shop for all of your counseling needs so you don't have to worry about searching on different sites, paying for things here and there, you can find everything you need on demand in one place in Impact. Head over to stressfreeschoolcounseling.com/impact to watch a sneak peek video behind the scenes of what all is included in the membership. Again, that's stressfreeschoolcounseling.com/impact to get started today. I can't wait to help you make an impact. Hey there, thanks for listening to another episode of School Counseling Simplified. Happy February, y'all. So you know I love a good theme, and February is full of them. So first up, it is National School Counseling Week. So yay us! I hope you are feeling loved, appreciated, and celebrated as you deserve to be. But if not, or if you're not really sure what you're supposed to be doing this week, head over to podcast episode 77. This is an episode that I did last year in February, all about how to celebrate National School Counseling Week, even if you're a solo counselor. And I include some fun, totally doable, like low stress ideas to advocate for your role and celebrate your position. So go ahead and check out that episode 77. We'll link to it in the show notes. Also in February, we think about Valentine's Day. Now, like I said, I love a good theme, and I'm constantly planning my counseling lessons around themes, whether they're like seasonal or holidays. I just think it's a fun way to engage the students. So for example, New Year's, we do a lot of goal setting, things like that. Well, now we're getting into February, and I love to talk about healthy friendships and relationships. I'll be talking about some other February-ish topics this month, but this week I really wanted to dive into healthy friendships and relationships. So I have a few ideas for you here. Now, this is going to be a shorter episode where I'm giving you ideas that I'm hoping you're listening to this on your commute or something, and you're like, yes, want to do that, and you go and do it today. They're supposed to be totally doable, non-intimidating. So let's go ahead and dive in. Now, first up, why talk about healthy friendships and relationships? Well, for some of us, this may seem super obvious, right? Like, well, duh, these are the qualities of a good friend, or yes, that's how you're supposed to be treated in a romantic relationship. But for many of our students, they really don't know. And unfortunately, this is because it's never been modeled for them. So I first experienced this when I was working as an intern at a school, and the counselor I was working for did a lesson on healthy relationships, and it was like a middle school age. And these students unfortunately had seen a lot of unhealthy behavior when it comes to romantic relationships among their parents or their mom's boyfriends or vice versa. And so it was just really eye-opening to see things that I thought were so obvious were unfortunately not the case for them. So if these kids haven't been modeled it or explicitly taught, what a healthy friendship or a healthy relationship looks like, then how are they supposed to know? And of course, throughout our lives, we have so many friendships and relationships. I mean, that's like the essence of life, right? Or the relationships and friendships we have with other people and how we interact with other people. So this is so, so important, but you can make it fun and doable at your school. So let me give you some examples. So first up, if you're talking about healthy versus unhealthy relationships or friendships, it's easy to do like a sorting or comparison activity. So we want students to learn the differences between healthy and unhealthy. So let me show you a few examples. First up, I love to think of like conversation hearts, the little Valentine's hearts that have messages on them. So you could go ahead and have some messages on the cards, on the hearts, and then the kids sort them into like 2 different piles or 2 different buckets. If you're doing this in a class lesson, you could just have a conversation about it. And as you're reading them out loud, you're, sticking them on some butcher paper, sticking them on the board. You could do it digitally, dragging and dropping them, on the screen. Or if you're doing this in like a small group setting or an individual setting, maybe the kids are making the cards themselves and coloring them in. Now, to modify this for grade levels, for younger kids, you're probably going to focus more on friendship. Older kids, you can focus on friendships and romantic relationships as they're starting to have, boyfriends, girlfriends, romantic relationships like that. So probably like middle school age for that one. But what you could do with the older kiddos is they could write their own examples. So you could, provide a few examples, but then they could write some as well. Now, something else I was thinking of is a collage. So this would be a fun way to use examples from the media. So, TV shows, magazines, sitcoms, song lyrics. Song lyrics is a huge one, right? Like there's a lot of disrespecting women through relationships and song lyrics that they could cut out, different things and make a collage. You could, again, do these in like big hearts or just have 2 different media collages showcasing different words, phrases, and images of models of healthy and unhealthy relationships. So bringing in like some magazines would be a really fun one for this. Maybe for older kids for this one. But I love to do this with a small group. Throw the magazines on the table. They're flipping through, cutting them out, pasting. You could do it together, where they're pasting on 2 big papers, or they could do individual ones and then present why they selected what they did. Of course, all of this you want to follow up with tons of discussion. And I'm going to give you some more actual examples of ones I use here in a bit. But you always want to follow this up with discussion, beforehand and afterwards, and kind of like debrief why you chose what. A lot of times I feel like my counseling activities that I do or that I recommend to people, they seem simple, like, oh, we're just going to make this collage. But it gets so deep and the kids learn so much because it all has to do with the conversation and how you deliver it. Now, next up is you could do a plate and do like a food analogy. So I thought this would be fun for the little kids if you're doing healthy friendships. So they're, maybe thinking the words healthy and unhealthy as it comes to food. So you could have like, do it on a plate, like a healthy foods plate, and maybe have like some fruits and vegetables that have healthy qualities of friendships. And then you could have like some junk food that has unhealthy qualities of friendship. So I just thought, that one's kind of silly, but I thought that could be a fun twist on it if you didn't really want to go with the Valentine's Day theme, but you could make it more like a food theme, healthy versus unhealthy. Now, something I want to remind you is that it's easier for students to see something in someone else than to see it in themselves. I think that's the case for all of us, right? Like oftentimes if something's annoying us about someone else, sometimes that's like a mirror and it's actually showing us that we have that same bad habit. But basically, I like to use social stories to help students externalize their feelings and to recognize certain patterns of behavior that they may not be able to recognize within themselves. So for example, if you're like, oh, why is the way your parents interact a unhealthy relationship? Or why is the way you and your boyfriend interact, an unhealthy relationship? They may not be able to articulate that or identify it. But on the other hand, if you're, have a social story about a fictional character who you created and you modeled it after the student because you know what's going on, they may be a lot easier for them to be like, oh, I see that Stephanie, gets really jealous of her boyfriend. That's kind of unhealthy. Or that, Angelo wants to read all of Stephanie's text messages. That's kind of possessive. It may be easier for them to see that through a story than to recognize it in themselves. Because when it comes to recognizing it within themselves, there comes a lot of, shame or embarrassment or fear, all those emotions they have to work through. So that's just an example of how you could use social stories, or you could use those media examples again. So, okay, let's watch this, TV clip and talk about how the characters are interacting. Are they in a healthy or unhealthy friendship? Or let's talk about these song lyrics. Are they modeling a healthy or unhealthy relationship? So while they're looking at it, from like an outside perspective, they may be able to make the connection. Oh, wait, I have these same, issues in my own friendships and relationships. And that's the goal, right? But we want them to make the connection rather than us just kind of like pointing it out and forcing it on them. Okay, I hope this makes sense. I'm excited about this. Now, I told you I would give you some more like literal examples. So I have, and I'll link to them in the show notes. I have them in my TPT store, and obviously they're on Impact. All of our Impact members already have access to these. But I have 2 activities. They're discussion cards for friendships and relationships. So I'll give you some examples so you can use these with your kiddos. But if you want to check out the resource, we'll link to it as well. So for example, for friendships, you could have some cards that say healthy or unhealthy, and they're doing the sort. So here's an example. You tell your friend that you have to miss his play because you have a soccer game and he wishes you good luck. Healthy or unhealthy? So that would be healthy. Or you feel happy and encouraged after hanging out with your friends. That would be healthy. You stop doing everything if your friend doesn't want to do it too. That would be unhealthy. Or you stop talking to your friend because she doesn't answer your phone calls right away. That also would be unhealthy. So these are some examples to kind of get your gears turning. I also have some true or false ones. So for example, like it's okay to disagree with your friends. That would be true. Or in order to have a healthy friendship, you have to talk to your friend every day. That would be false. So you can word them that way. Talk about a time when. I love an open-ended question. Something like talk about a time you've been part of a healthy relationship. Talk about a time you've been part of an unhealthy relationship. I love scenarios like what would you do? What would you do if your friend says she's not your friend anymore anytime you disagree with her? Or what would you do when your friend's excited to show you something they've been working on but you're really busy? So I love those what would you do open-ended questions too. So those examples I just gave, those are part of my friendship ones. Like I said, I'll link to these so you guys can check them out. But you could totally make your own based off those same prompts. And those are friendships, and they're geared more toward younger students. Now, I also have relationships. So let me give you some examples of some of those. So for the relationship ones, healthy versus unhealthy would be more like you feel valued and loved after hanging out with your partner. So that would be healthy. Versus you feel insecure after hanging out with your partner. Unhealthy. You know, it's talking about jealousy, reading text messages, respecting and supporting each other's decisions, things like that to determine if the relationship is healthy or unhealthy. Then I have some fun like real talk cards that are saying, asking, do you have a model of a healthy relationship in your family? Talk about a time you've been part of an unhealthy relationship. And then again, those what would you do? So, you can say something like your partner asks you to start dressing differently. What would you do? Or when you don't answer your phone right away, your partner accuses you of lying. What would you do? So those are some ideas to get you started. I'm super excited about this topic. I think it's something we don't really talk about as much in counseling, the unhealthy versus healthy relationships, but I think it's super important. Because like I said, relationships and friendships we're dealing with all day, every day, and it's so important for our students to learn how to be in these healthy relationships. So I hope you found this episode helpful. Again, I'm kind of a cheese ball, and I love to do it around Valentine's Day, so maybe you will like to too. Okay, happy National School Counseling Week again. I hope you have an awesome week, and I so appreciate you guys. Talk to you next time.
Thanks for listening to School Counseling Simplified. You can find the links from today's episode in the show notes. If you'd like to connect with Rachel, she's on Instagram and Teachers Pay Teachers at Bright Futures Counseling. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any episodes of School Counseling Simplified. Talk to you next week.